We're going to focus today on improving your inspection process. And we're going to especially focus on how you can leverage your existing data and improve the way you plan, execute, and report on your inspection process. Today, we've invited a couple of interesting people. To start with myself, I have a background in industrial engineering, and I have a couple of years of experience in working data-centrically to manage your asset data. I'm joined here today with Koen Penneman, one of our partners, who has a lot of experience in the field. Tell everybody something about yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Koen Penneman. I have an engineering background of 20 years in complex CapEx projects in bulk liquid industry. We are organizing feasibility studies, master plans, the complete engineering part until coordination, commissioning, and startup of industrial installations and pipeline installations. Together with a team of 15 experienced engineers, we're managing the complete scope to support our customers to realize safe, ergonomic, and maintainable installations. Thank you, Thomas.
All right, thank you for your introduction, Koen. It's clear to see why we asked Koen to be here today. He has a lot of experience in the field. On the background, we also have another colleague here today. She's our lovely assistant who's going to help us process your questions today. Her name is Elaine. Elaine, can you say hi for a bit?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar and enjoy the webinar. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Elaine. So like I said, Elaine is going to help us with processing your questions during the webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, just ask them in the chat box over there or over there. I'm not so sure. And Elaine will filter those questions, ask them, try to answer them, or actually save them up till the end of the presentation where Koen and I will be actually answering your questions live. So who are you guys today? We've actually compiled a list of every participant that's out here and tried to summarize where you guys are from and what kinds of functions you guys have. And we've asked each and every one of you what you're trying to get out of this webinar. And what we've noticed is that you especially are involved with preparing, commissioning, executing, or reporting on pipeline inspections. And that's great, because that's all what we're going to do today. We're going to explore the challenges that you might have during this process and even more. So if we look at the commonalities, is that what you guys all want is that your inspection process is executed in a way that's high quality and in a way that is efficiently. Because ultimately, you all want reliable asset information and reliable asset inspection results. At least that's what I assume, because what we see a lot of times at customers and probably also at your companies, that is currently not the case. And that's probably why you're attending today. Things are not as efficient as they could be. The quality of your inspection could be higher. It's too chaotic right now. Sometimes you spend a lot of time on things that honestly are not part of the inspection process or shouldn't be, because a lot of it should be based on preparing the inspection, which should be as efficient as possible, but actually never is. So you have a real big need for having the reliable asset information in place in one source, so you can draw from that to prepare your actual inspections. But that source is rarely there. It's always scattered on different locations. And that's what we're focusing on today. So we have three major takeaways for this webinar. One is that all your scattered data shouldn't be. And we're going to tell you and explain to you why it's currently scattered and why unifying that information to one source of truth would actually help you guys draw from the same information and reduce the amount of time you spend on preparing and reporting on inspections. Effectively, that will make your whole inspection process more efficient, more effective, cheaper, of a higher quality, and just will all make your lives a little bit better. So before we're going to do that, I first want to ask you guys, what are your goals in the inspection process? You can drop your comments in the chat box, and my lovely colleague will answer those, and also another colleague who's helping us out with answering your questions. We've already tried to summarize based on our experience what your goals are. You, in the end, just want a reliable inspection. You want a reliable inspection to be done, and you want the results of those inspections to be clear and unambiguous. And even though some of you might actually be doing the inspection solely for the purpose of abiding to the law, what you actually want is a safe process, better performing assets, and a more profitable company. So the challenge that a lot of you guys are currently facing is that your data is now scattered on all kinds of locations. They're even sometimes still in physical documents. And let me tell you, it's really hard to unify and align information that's just isolated in those documents. Documents that might actually be in drawers that's only opened by one person every other month, or in a drawer that's has not been opened for years. All in all this gathering of information in different silos, different software, different documents, makes your data unreliable. Because if it's isolated in certain places, it's also not accessible to everyone. It's not aligned, and it might be out of date. All of this ultimately leads to you having information gaps. And of course, you can take it from us, but I would like to ask Koen. Koen, how do you see this in the field? Do you recognize this?
Yes, of course, we recognize this. Every project in the last 15 years is always, in the beginning, a search for correct data. There's lots of data silos between different company divisions. And I see the inefficiency of the startup of my colleagues when they're starting up an engineering process. They have to visit every division, ask for all data which is available. We see all kinds of different data not validated. So it's in every company the same. There is a complete lack of good and centralized information.
Well, thank you, Koen. And that's actually what we also saw in the research that we did together with Koen. We actually researched and asked people how much time do they spend on gathering, validating, and checking data before they can actually work. Well, you can see in the chart that different disciplines spend different amounts of time on time so this. But for pipeline inspectors, it's up to 60% of their day that's filled with checking information, checking up-to-date standards, checking if their as-built is really as-built. That's a lot of time that they could be spending on the actual inspections. We want to help you focus on your core businesses and help you that you no longer have to focus on all these tedious tasks that you need in order to perform business. So what kind of tedious tasks am I talking about? A couple of reasons why you are attending this webinar. You're facing challenges while you're preparing for information for pipeline inspections, doing the pipeline inspections, reporting on the pipeline inspections afterwards, and taking actions. Because it's not just data. It's not just inspection data that you use to have inspected an asset. It's inspection data that you use in order to take actions. And we want to help you take actions. We want to help you be more profitable, more efficient, and work in a safer and happier way. So first, we're going to focus on challenges in preparation. I'm first going to highlight some challenges that you might be having, and then I will ask Koen if he recognizes these challenges so he can actually create an image for you guys, bring it alive. So what we see with inspectors that they always start by checking the current as-built. This is something they do by checking previous inspection results, checking drawings of the as-built, and maybe editing them because they're not up to date. But oftentimes they're faced with circumstances that they couldn't rely on. For example, a drawing that was out of date, and now they start questioning every other drawing. They start circling back, checking every drawing they already checked because they found evidence that something might be different. Sometimes this also means that an inspector has to go into the field to prepare the inspection. which is of course not always as easy as you might think, especially during COVID times. You want to be able to actually plan and prepare the inspection behind your desk. Koen, I've now highlighted this particular challenge. Do you recognize this challenge?
Of course, we recognize them, and I can tell you a small story of last year when we were making an inventory of a tank pit with one of our customers in the tank storage business. And during our laser scanning, we were watching an inspector doing his job, and it was quite amazing how inefficient they have to work. They had to go to quite unreachable pipelines, which had to be isolated. They marked with a text marker the inspection points. They wrote down the inspection numbers in a file. They made the thickness measurement, took some pictures, and after it, they wrote a report. And this PDF report was then laid down on the desk of our customer. And I asked them, what are you going to do next year? And then they said, we are going to repeat this complete job. It's quite strange because when I see how small the difference are between the different tank pits, I can imagine that, or they're going to have the wrong tank pits to inspect again. They're going to challenge the wrong pipelines. They can lose some inspection data. They have no idea in work preparation whether the pipeline can be reached from the ground or if they need scaffolding, etc. I think there is a much better way to prepare those kind of inspections and to store all this kind of data and to visualize it.
Thank you, Koen. I also think this must be, there must be a way that makes this all a lot more efficient and easier. And Koen and I already know something that you might not yet, but we'll focus on that later. There might be a solution to all of this. Because there's another challenge I want to highlight first. While preparing for making your isometrics, preparing for the actual inspection, you are going to check a lot of P&IDs, drawings to check if they're up to date and reliable. That's because they're not always stored in one place. You might have a document management system, but that's just what it is. It's separate documents that are not linked. You make a change in one document, the other document won't automatically change. So it doesn't matter that you store it in one place, it all has to be accessible and linked at the same time. Because otherwise, one document might be up to date, but the other isn't. And then you will still check every document because you found one document that makes you doubt everything. Is that also something you recognize, Koen, that one document can actually throw you off your game and start questioning all your data that you already checked?
Of course, because there are quite a lot of data silos in a certain company. For instance, an inspector, most of the time it's an external, it's a freelance person, or he's working for an external company. He's a contractor. So the first issue they have to handle is which P&ID is in which division validated. Are there as-built inspection isometrics available or not? So it's very hard to centralize all this kind of data with the correct person who has to do the job.
I understand, thank you. It's indeed really hard to coordinate all the information you got if you don't have a centralized system to do so. It really relies on your interpersonal skills, but honestly, your skills might be super good, but you just want to spend time on doing the inspections. So you shouldn't be wanting to spend time all day on just communicating. There's other people who love that kind of job, but there's also software that could assist you in this. Now we're going to focus on the next challenge, actually, in preparation, and that's creating isometrics. I hope that you're all aware of what an isometric is. Well, for inspections, you have particular inspection isometrics, which highlights and shows the different inspection points. The process of creating a drawing like this is as tedious and time-consuming as creating any drawing. That's not just in the drawing itself, but also preparing what should be in the drawing. And indeed, checking all the data, make sure it's all up to date, it's all secure, make sure that you have the right input so you can actually continue. Koen, how much time do you think that an average company spends on creating an isometrics?
Well, based upon the research we did with some big customers in oil and gas tank storage business and the experience we have, I think it's between 4 and 8 hours for each line number or pipeline number they need to spend. And I know there is one person following this webinar. I had a conversation with him last week, and there were even data from which we can investigate it, and they talked about even 3 days per isometric or line number they need to prepare before they can do and store the data out of pipeline inspections.
3 days, that's a long time. That's especially a long time if you realize that sometimes inspectors are not able to go out into the field and do a field check beforehand. What happens is that they actually go into the field, find differences between the isometric. They just have 3 days on preparing, and they have to go back to their drawing board to make sure that their inspection isometric actually matches the situation in the field. This will delay inspections sometimes with days or weeks, because you have to request access to the pipeline again, and it all has to be in line with everyone else in the company. This will actually lead to more downtime in your system, and that's what you're trying to avoid. You're trying to inspect your pipelines to make sure that they're always productive, always safe, and can always be used. Extra downtime because of inefficient inspections, of course, is the last thing you're trying to achieve. What you're also trying to achieve is that when you're done with all this work, you actually would like this information to be available for next inspection, so you don't have to redo it all again. But the fact of the matter is that most of your reports just get archived. They might end up in some database, and someone might actually try to do something with it for risk-based inspections, but that's it. It's not openly shared with everybody. So any other analysis that could have been done with the same data, because it's out there, your data is now made. You can do whatever you want with it. But for most people, this data will remain static and unused. Koen, in your vision, all this data that has been generated, what could you do with it as a company?
Well, based upon our experience and specifically about the engineering data we collect, and it's quite a big amount of data. What I'm wondering every day is why this data has been stored in non-accessible data sources when the startup of the installation has been done. But you could use this data, for instance, to optimize your purchasing department. You can see which number of pumps, which types you have in your company, which spare parts you need, but you can use also the data to prepare, like we said, the data for inspectors. You can generate automatically isometrics if you want to. You could use this data to train operators for new installations. You can help them to work in a safe and ergonomic way. You can use this data also to prepare shutdowns to see whether a crane can pass the terrain, can pass under pipe bridges, for instance. As you see, I can count numbers and numbers of examples in which case you could use quite a lot and in a good way all this kind of data.
Thank you, Koen. I believe the same thing. Once you've generated the data for one purpose, you must remember that you're not in isolation. You're actually part of a bigger company. And every part of the company might be able to use your data for different purposes. and benefiting even more from your initial investment. So instead of redoing the work every year, you just do the work once and benefited from it every year. That's a different way of looking at it, because in the end, even if you're doing it just to abide by the law, you wish to improve the safety. You want to make sure that everyone in your site is actually working safely, that the performance of your assets are optimally, and that you're making a lot of profit. You want to make sure that you prevent every incident and accident on site, because people really come first. You come first, and but in order to retain your job, of course, your company needs to make a lot of profit, and that can only be done if you work as efficient and effective as possible. So don't just use your data of your inspection results to have it, to show the government like, hey, here you go. I meet all the expectations, all the regulations. Now actually use that data to do some risk-based inspections or predictive maintenance. Make sure that you optimize your investment every time and time again. I would now like to ask Koen to give us a little bit more experience, a little bit more insights in what he has learned by talking to customers in the past 20 years.
Well, first of all, I'd like to tell you something about our origin and how we started our company. So we started as a very small engineering company. We wanted to compete with our big colleagues. So we wanted to automate the engineering process as much as possible. And at that moment, already we were looking for a tool which could help us with a data-centric solution. And that tool was Plant4D software, because we wanted to automate as much as possible the engineering process. And after the engineering, we wanted to give back the data to the end customers so that we could reuse it during next projects, so that we could minimize the reuse and reuse time of this data. What we saw is that in the design time, that equals quite a lot of money. And nowadays, every step in the life cycle of an installation is doing quite a lot. All kind of activities has to be done again. So there is a lack of reuse of data. So we want to convince our customers after the engineering phase and the installation that they need to reuse the data so that we can break down the data silos and the walls between several divisions, as Thomas said already. And so it's quite interesting and important that you can reuse the centralized data for different and many reasons. And in the next example, I'd like to show you how we handled a project a few years ago by reusing all kind of data which we collected during the years. And I will show you the next picture. It's a picture of a company which is active in the production of phosphates. It's a world leader. And we are working there in several small-sized projects during the last 10, 15 years. And we shared the same vision in collecting data and in reusing data. One of the tools we use is 3D laser scanning to collect correct data so that we can virtualize and visualize our new installations, which has to be integrated in the existing installations. And in the picture in the left corner, you see a laser scanning point cloud, which we use to create and design new installations. And 2 years ago, we were asked to design a new tank pit with tank storage. And there was quite a lot of piping going to the existing storage tanks, but also to a truck loading and a ship loading installation. And by collecting and reusing all this kind of data and bringing them together in a software tool, CAD software tool we use, which is Plant4D, we were able to rescan during half a day some critical tie-in points, and we could add them to the existing point cloud. So it was a waste. It was no waste of time, and we won, I think, 1 week for scanning, and then I'm not mentioning the data registration. And by working in this way, we could realize this project within 7 months. So 7 months from engineering until startup, and this should not be possible without working in this 3D virtual environment, which makes it able to do quite a lot of prefabrication works. For instance, pipelines, but also the storage tanks and pipe bridges. And as you can see, it's also an interesting tool. If you can gather all this kind of data and you can visualize it and virtualize it in a 3D environment, you can use it also to do some 3D reviews with your customer. And specifically in this COVID lockdown period, we mentioned in another project that when it's not possible to organize real-time live meetings, you can do video conferencing and you can organize virtual meetings, looking into the same 3D model with customers from all over the world, project members from all over the world, and you can continue your projects without losing this worthwhile time. So why should you spend time nowadays to produce all this kind of engineering data by making manual hand sketches, handmade inspection, isometrics, etc. All this kind of modern technological stuff is available today. And to summarize it, we even use this kind of data and this way of work starting from the feasibility study, even to give over some master plan data, feasibility data to our customers, because by automizing this kind of data and putting everything in a central database, it makes it possible to produce automatically bill of materials, to produce tender isometrics, construction isometrics, which makes it possible to do correct budget estimates. And as we told already, you can reuse it afterwards in inspection programs. So all kind of possibilities, it's amazing. It's amazing. I can show you some examples when we are producing a model, a 3D model, in which way an isometric can be generated automatically with all this kind of data. It's a huge source of information also for the contractors afterwards, for our customers, to discuss whether we are talking about the same scope, the same budget. We can plan everything. It's the only way of work, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Koen. It seems like you guys have figured out how to use Plant4D in such a way that it benefits you and the customer the most. And that's the thing, really, because we've mentioned Plant4D now a couple of times, and that's the way we're going to solve your problems. In a lot of organizations, you have all of these different isolated departments. You can see that one on the left, in the right, the red connected tank situation, where everybody is just looking at the same thing, but only talking to themselves, only talking within their own department, and all reinventing the wheel. Because if there's a change, other people are not updated. They're not aware of what's been happening. And management has to make sure that everyone keeps kind of aligned, works together on the same slot, but data never is. The data is never aligned. It may be the same, but it usually differs a lot. People are sometimes not even using the same words to actually talk about the same objects. And that's different on the other side. What you see in the green circle is that everyone is aligned. And the big difference is that they're all connected by using the same software. This doesn't mean that they have to stop using their own software. It does mean that the data from their own software is now linked to one central database, allowing you to have one source of truth. Like what Koen said before, it's not just having the right data at the moment for this project. It's having the right data available for everyone. And over time, you can increase that amount of data that's in there. And during a time like these, COVID, everyone working from home, isn't it great that you have your data accessible and reliable online so that you can actually work from home, even if you're working in such a physical field of work like the process management industry? So I like to point out what Plan4D is, because it's this great solution that actually connects all these departments. And we call it a data-centric solution, because the data is now at the heart of the organization. It's the part and the permanent asset that you're always looking at, because that data gives you direct insight in your performance, in your capabilities, in everything that you actually own. And every data source is interlinked. It's not isolated. It's always secured in one data model. Your separate software may have their own data models, but these are always linked and structured in such a way that it only serves that application. Our data model is actually open, meaning that you can link it to every bit of software, and that all of the information from other software is actually secured in Plan4D. Every department is connected this way because all the data is available at every time, accessible at every time. It's not locked, it's not on paper, it's always in the same database. And that's really where our power lies. Because having that information makes sure that, like we said, inspectors can spend up to 60% of their time on preparing inspections, right? So instead of doing that, they can now use our Plan4D. And I can guarantee you that you will spend at least 60 to 80% less time on finding that information, because it's already secured in one database, one data model that's up to date, valid, and reliable. So within the software, there's actually a part that focuses purely on the inspections. So you can use all of the information, assemble it in little packages, and prepare your inspections. I would now like to show you guys a little demo of what our software can do, especially for inspections. Not on every browser will start automatically. So somewhere in your screen, it might say start video. I would like to ask you guys to actually do that. The video will start now. Demo here on our data-centric inspection module. You open the module, you create a new inspection plan, you give it a short description and a contract in a year. Why only a year? Well, you're not doing an inspection every day. Then you start adding pipelines to your inspection plan. You can simply add every pipeline, like I did, but you can also filter on every specific segment of this tag, allowing you to focus, for example, on a specific area. Now, what you can do is see the 3D model on its own. You can also see the 3D model in the project view, which allows you to see the assets neighboring your pipeline, which is easy because that way you'll be able to recognize your pipeline and where it's located. Well, next up is identifying which part of the pipeline you wish to inspect. You simply do that by either clicking in the 3D model on the specific segment and giving it an inspection point number, or you go directly to the database, because the database is always linked to your 3D and 2D model. Once you hit that save button, you can see that every inspection point has now been added to the pipeline. This on its own could be enough to send your inspector out into the field. But what's most common is that you actually use an inspection isometric. That inspection isometric you generate on the spot using our software. In a matter of seconds, you have your inspection isometric. Let's say you change something in the pipeline. You can change that in the inspection isometric also in a matter of seconds, because it's all automatically unlinked. Let's say you don't change your pipeline for 2 years, you can reuse the same inspection isometrics, which you won't lose because it's secured in our system. But once you're done, you're just going to identify which plane you've done measurements and on which points. How are you going to fill this in? completely depends on your standards as a company. We're working with an open database structure, so the sky is the limit. In the end, you want to store enough data so you'll be able to draw conclusions based on those inspections results, but not too much data, because it has to be a solution that actually works for you and not the other way around. Of course, I'm just rushing through it. This is just a pitch. If you want to know more information, I'll be happy to set up a private appointment. So what did we see in this video, guys? We actually saw that our software makes it possible to have all of your data available at every time. And this is especially useful, like I said, for preparing inspections. Making inspection plans is faster, easier, and the plans are also secured in our software. It makes it also really easy to actually attach the inspection results to the initial plan, enabling you to store these results and entering and opening them the next time you have an inspection to plan. So I want to look at the benefits you guys can actually gain from using our software. We've mentioned before that you spend between 4 and actually 3 days, 4 hours and 3 days on creating an isometric, preparing for the isometric. And we're telling you that this can be done in 1 hour. You can actually change an existing plan in under a minute, because our software will actually indicate that a change has been made to your as-built. So you only have to press one button to create a new inspection isometric. This way, you're always sure that your field status always matches the situation in the database. Every department is working in the same database, so every change that is registered in any of the software of any of the links departments will actually be updated throughout the whole system. This means that not only one department is working on keeping everything up to date, but at least 3, 4, 5, depending on the level of integration within your company. Like Koen said before, there's so many ways to benefit from this data. So we would actually advise you to actually link every bit of information that you can, because you never know when that kind of information will actually be very useful to everybody. When you're trying to make inspection plans using Plan4D, we can assure you that you're going to save a lot of time and money. This is just because of our experience we have with companies that are not using our software, that are actually struggling a lot to produce inspection plans that are reliable, based on current and up-to-date information, and to do this in a timely basis. More often than not, people are spending so many days more than they expected initially on just gathering and verifying information. Also, afterwards, when they're done with the inspections, the reporting that's done on the actual inspections is not always consistent. It's not always used. It's usually actually just archived in some kind of drawer, like, check, that's done. But it's not used to do further analysis of the data. And that's what we're trying to make you aware of. Your data may be scattered, but it could be aligned. All of your data could actually be one source of truth that you access and that you draw from to create your inspection plans. Subsequently, when you have that, you will more easily plan, execute, you will actually perform your inspections and report on them. And you will use all of that data, put it in one central database, and then start analyzing your data to make sure you get more from it, that your data can be used throughout the whole company and everybody draws from the same single source of truth. So let's review. We initially thought or assumed that you guys came here because you want to perform a quality inspection. We then started asking you guys, like, is that actually the case? And you can still drop a comment in our comment section and ask yourself and ask us, like, is it actually the case at your company? Are you performing your inspections as effective and efficient as possible? And is there a process to get there as efficient and effective as possible? Because in our opinion, it could always be more efficient. And in the reality, it isn't efficient at all. Like Koen elaborated earlier, some inspectors have really thorough plans. They go to the field, they take their PDFs, they take markers, and they actually go climb a mountain just to make sure that they have the right preparation, which is really good work. But if you don't register that information in the central database, this data will be lost. And you will have to redo it next year or the next time you do the same inspection. So that's what we want to tell you guys. Make sure you use the right and correct information, and make sure you have the process and software structure to actually store that information in such a way that you reuse it. Because the moment you start reusing data, it becomes so much more valuable. All right, so let's just recap, because we were focusing just on the inspection today. Your inspection time will be heavily reduced. Why? Because you're working with up-to-date and correct data. You don't have to recheck it, you don't have to redo anything, because you can be assured that you're working with the right data. You can easily access that data because this is in one single database. This will allow you to make fast inspection isometrics. Actually so fast, as you could see in the demo, that's just done by pressing one button. Ultimately, this will make sure that you perform your inspections, that you have the data, and then you can actually use that data to improve the safety on your site, the effectivity of your processes, and the profitability of your company. So the next step is actually for you guys, if you're really interested, if we sparked an interest with you guys, if you are as enthused about this solution as we are, we can actually try to see if this solution would work for your company. If you're interested, please drop a comment, contact me personally, go to the website, that's too many W's, casystems.com, and make an appointment with us. We will gladly engage with you guys and go into a conversation and see if we can do anything for you. We can, especially learning is really important for us. So we would love to learn how things are at your company so we can put our input into practice and check if we can actually mean something for you. We can also schedule a demo if you're already excited about improving your process. And you can also just contact us in any way or form, or contact our partner, Koen Penneman, if you think that we as a team or Koen pipe experts could help you guys. I also want to make sure that you guys are coming to the next webinar, which is going to be on the 12th of November on how to become a truly data-driven organization. And in that webinar, we're going to especially focus on how data centricity and data-driven working can help you as a company as a whole. Today, we focus more on the pipeline inspections, which are really important and greatly benefit from working in a data-driven way. Before we do that, before we end this session, I want to focus on any questions that you guys might have had. So during this session, actually, two of my colleagues, our lovely assistants, have checked out your questions and may have answered some of them already, but some of them have been kept also for the very end of this presentation, for the very end of this webinar, because we're actually trying to answer these questions live. If I can give the word to our lovely colleague, Elaine. Elaine, could you please...
Hi, Thomas. Thank you very much for your introduction. And yes, we have had some really interesting questions. So the first one is, Thomas, what's the added value of your inspection software compared to other software applications?
That's a really good question, Elaine. I'm not sure who answered a question, who asked this question, but I'm happy to answer it. Our software solution is part of the entire e-system. This means that all the information will be in one place, and that will really improve the speed and time you spend on preparing the isometrics, creating the isometrics, accessing the information that's always up to date, and enables you to share all that information within the same platform throughout the whole company, meaning that the possibility to analyze that data, which is far beyond what was initially intended. That's something that we can do because we're a platform that connects and unites data in such a way that is efficient and gives you a correct and clear overview of what your asset is and can do. And whereas other applications are usually made for their specific purpose. Their purpose is not to serve as a database that allows you to manage all of your data in such a way that it can be used optimally, but it's usually, the software is usually designed, for example, to help you do maintenance, to help you do inspections, but only in such a way that it focuses purely on its isolated task. And if you do that, if you only focus on your isolated task, then you usually don't use any data from other software systems. And that's where our power really lies. We unite data. Elaine, do you have any more questions?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's quite busy over here. Let's see. The next question that I have is, yes, it's about the ownership and the control of the system. Where does the ownership and the control of the system belong? So who's like in control of the owner of the system?
All right. I think what's really important when you look at this kind of software is that you look at who's in control and ownership of the data. The system, of course, is a software. You can have it on your system and you're in control of the software. What's more important is the data in that software. At CS Systems with Plant4D, we use an open database structure that's actually based on SQL. That's SQL server is going to be on your side, in your control. That means that all of the data is always yours. You're never dependent on Plant4D to own your data or to access your data. You're always in ownership of your data. Do we have any more questions, Elaine?
Of course. Yeah. Hang on. I just got the question in is what's the possibility to automatically import the AutoCAD drawings into the system?
Koen, can I ask you to answer this question?
Yes, I think so. This is a more difficult one in the sense of the Plant4D solution is based upon data stored in a database. When you're talking about AutoCAD, to me it's not clear, is it non-intelligent AutoCAD files, just lines as a sketchbook, or is this an AutoCAD with attribute data behind it? That's quite a difference. When it's an intelligent AutoCAD-based drawing, the databases and the data in it can be shared, and you can generate a new AutoCAD drawing. And that's quite important to mention because this Plant4D solution, the software solution, is using AutoCAD as the graphical user interface. So it's an SQL-based database as a platform above an AutoCAD graphical interface. Another way of integrating is that you make use of the service department of Plant4D to make existing non-intelligent AutoCAD drawings more intelligent so that you can import this kind of data into the Plant4D database. But to recapitulate everything, so the Plant4D is a database solution with a virtualizing or an AutoCAD interface. If you're talking just about importing AutoCAD drawings, then I'm wondering where is the intelligence you want to add. So I suppose that we tackle this issue later on when I can hear what is your specific question or your goal.
Absolutely. I will definitely also ask the person who asked the question. Koens, as you do have the microphone anyways, I have another one, which is a little bit more into the field of execution. What if the 3D model is based on point clouds? Can that be linked?
Yes, of course, that can be linked because Plant4D is making use of an open database, and you can add or import all kinds of data. And as 3D point cloud data is just ASCII code, X, Y, Z coordinates, you can link them to the database and you can even virtualize it. So that's quite interesting. If you have an existing brownfield installation or site installation, By making an inventory using 3D laser scanning, you can generate quite efficiently and in a quick way a complete site, and then you can start adding intelligent data, information, for instance, inspection data or whatever, to the geometric locations of the point cloud. So it's a positive, affirmative, my answer. And we already have the experience in combining point clouds and Plan4D intelligent models, but also we are experienced in adding inspection data into point cloud data.
Wow, that is interesting, Koen. Thank you very much for answering that one. Since you're on a roll anyways, I have one regarding risk-based inspections from one of the inspectors. How can we link the inspection results to corrosion monitoring software doing the RBI calculations and predictions?
That's an interesting one. First of all, I like to tell that this inspection model or the Plan4D solution is not a competitor of existing RBI prediction software or calculations. So Plan4D wants to be like they say, the single source of truth. My experience is as Plan4D can be used starting from the first conceptual and feasibility engineering phase. They're gathering quite a lot of information and data, which is needed to fill the databases of RBI software. So an interesting one is by storing inspection data into the Plan4D software, together with logging data, geometric data. This kind of data can be given away, or there can be a handshake towards existing RBI software. So at this moment, I don't think there is an intention of creating analytical algorithm to predict corrosion, etc. But the data you need and the inspection data, together with the data, inspection data and locations, can be shared with existing RBI softwares.
Wow, I'm glad you answered that question because I would not have been able to. The next question that I received was about the isometrics. So let's switch back to Thomas for this question. Thomas, you talked a lot about the isometrics and about reoccurring data. What's the additional value of your software versus reproducing the isometrics every year?
That's an interesting question. For one, why would people want to reproduce isometrics? Probably because they think that changes have occurred in the field that may render their previous isometrics outdated. In our system, we actually enable you to track every change that has been made in the field, ensuring that if you look at your previous isometric, you will already see if your isometric needs to be updated. And if it does, you just have to click that button. It will automatically get the latest data from your 3D model, from your P9D, from everything you need to create a new isometric. So that's really the value of reusing isometrics every year, is that you don't have to go through the whole process that we just described, all those challenges that you're facing in the preparation process, because it's already done. It's already up to date. It's already in a right and nice package that will allow you to go and do your inspections well prepared. You will not see any weird surprises because it's all up to date. All right. Any more questions, Elaine?
Yes, I just got notified that we kind of have to wrap it up. So I still had a couple of questions that we'll definitely address later on by chat or phone or directly with people. But I did get some questions regarding AutoCAD drawings. So Koen, let's go back to you. Is it possible to create drawings using AutoCAD? And is your system able to read these types of files?
Thank you, Elaine. I really like to answer this question because that's the beautiful issue of Plant4D. As I told you, it's a data-based solution. So AutoCAD already is the graphical user interface of Plant4D. So it's evidence that all drawings generated by Plant4D are generated into AutoCAD. So it's a native DVG file, which you can use to spread around and even to change it yourself if you want to. So it's a positive answer, I think.
Okay, I would like to let other people know that we do see your questions come in, and we will definitely answer them later on by chat, telephone, or directly. So I'd like to hand over the mic back to Thomas as I'm finishing up the question round.
All right, thank you very much, Elaine. Yeah, as Elaine already said, and she helped us immensely. Thank you very much, our lovely assistant. Koen, I think you agree that Elaine did a great job.
Yes, of course, and I like to thank you too, Thomas, and the complete SIA Systems team to support us every day with this great kind of software solutions to make our job more efficiently day after day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Koen. That's exactly what we're trying to do, and we're so happy that you could be here with us today to give your personal expertise, your personal experience in the field, and make everything just come alive a bit more. Thank you very much. Everyone who attended today, I want to thank you all as well. Thank you for listening to us. I hope to engage with you guys even more. Please reach out to us. We'll make sure that we send you an email, make sure that we stay in contact, because we would love to try and help you guys. Knowledge is great, but implementing that knowledge just gives us a great feeling. Thank you all.